Does Alabama football still have a shot at the number one recruiting class in the 2026 cycle? Stick around. Let's talk recruiting. This is Way Offsides. 3, 2, let's go. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Way Offsides, your favorite Alabama talk on YouTube. Do yourself a favor. There's a lot going on. The 2025 season is about to start. We're right in the middle of SEC Media Days. Diego Pavia was saying some crazy stuff yesterday. Lenora Sellers was talking up Alabama's defense. Recruiting's going on. There's a lot, and it's a lot to keep track of. And I'm telling you, if you don't want to pay for it, you can do it right here. All you got to do is hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and you won't miss a thing. We'll tell you what everybody else is saying, what we think, what we're hearing, all right here, free of charge. Anyway, I hope you're having a fabulous week. It is Tuesday, June 15th, when we're recording this. Like I said, we're right in the middle of SEC Media Days. We're also right in the middle of the 2026 recruiting cycle. Summer is coming to an end in that sense. Official visits have ended, and there are recruits landing all over the place, committing here or there. Number one linebacker in the country, Tyler Atkinson, is likely to commit today. I believe that he will be landing with Texas. Nick Abrams, who we had on the show, four-star linebacker, was predicted to Georgia. Just a lot going on. And it seems like after a 3-week span where Alabama got really, really hot, signed a ton of 4-stars. They're not signed, but received the verbal commitment from a ton of 4-stars. Things have kind of wavered, right? Things have settled down. What does that mean? What does that mean for Alabama? Does Alabama have a realistic shot at the number one class? I would say no right now. They don't. And I'm going to tell you why. When we look at the ratings right now, Alabama's sitting at number 5. Obviously, the big target still on the board for Alabama fans is 4-star edge. We're going to address the 4-star thing here in a second. 4-star edge, Anthony Tank Jones out of St. Paul. I believe that he is a Alabama lean right now. I think Texas A&M is making some headway there. They're making a push. Oregon as well. But I do believe that when it's all said and done, it'll be Alabama. Now, why do you say 4-star, Cotton? Everybody's always said 5-star. Well, yesterday Rivals did some reevaluations, and they dropped Tank to a 4-star. Although when you look at his overall rating, he is still a 5-star. He is a 5-star recruit. He'll earn that 5th star back this fall, just like Xavier Crowell. So nothing to worry about there. With those two guys, Alabama would sign, assuming everybody signs, they would sign 6 5-star recruits. Well, the closest to that right now is Oregon with 3. I think Georgia may have 3 or 2. Let's see. Georgia has 2 right now. Georgia's likely to land another one. So the closest anybody is to Alabama in terms of 5-star recruits is 3. Now, Alabama also has 9 4-star recruits and 6 3-star recruits. Well, when we look at where they are ranked, it's kind of hard to digest because Texas A&M right now, they have 1 5-star recruit. They have 18 4-star recruits and 6 3-stars. Notre Dame, same thing except 7 3-stars. USC has 2 5-stars, 19 4-stars and 10 3-stars. And Georgia, who is currently sitting at number 1 at the rankings, has 2 5-stars, 20 4-stars, and 7 3-stars. Well, that's a lot of numbers, right? And that is where the problem is going to lie for Alabama. Courtney Morgan has tweeted out several times, quality over quantity. And he's saying that because right now, in total, Alabama has 19 recruits in their 2026 class. Let's look at Oregon has 14, sitting right behind Alabama at number 6. Texas A&M has 25. Notre Dame has 26. USC, Southern Cal, has 31, and Georgia has 29, and they'll likely all of those schools will likely finish with more than what they're showing right now. So, assuming Alabama gets 2 more guys this summer, which I think they will, they would have 21 commitments, 21 verbal commitments. Now, so what does Alabama do? Where do they turn? Where do they look? A lot of people are starting to come off the boards. Alabama's not in play for a lot of people that are left. What do they do? Well, I think Alabama's strategy is this. Obviously, signing 30 plus guys to a recruiting class sounds great until those kids realize that they have to compete for playing time. And so I think that some of these classes, especially USC and Georgia, they'll see some exits in the fall. They'll see some guys flip commitments. Not just those guys. I think that everybody will have that problem, but especially these classes with a ton of commitments. There's just not going to be enough room. Now, unlike the Auburn stance on this, I'm not saying that Georgia, USC are not going to honor whatever NIL agreements they made with these players. I think that's a terrible idea. That's any program that's doing that is setting themselves up for extreme failure. And I just can't fathom an athletic department, a Division I athletic department, especially one with a storied history like USC or Georgia, making promises that they can't follow through on because it's just a really bad look for them. It's a bad business decision, basically. And so the difference in what I'm saying is just that the rooms are going to be too crowded in this sense. And there's certain people who are going to see that writing on the wall and they're going to want to get out. Now, I think with Georgia right now, Georgia is if you could say there was an Alabama right now, it would be Georgia in terms of recruiting. It's hard to say that because Alabama's still right there in the mix of it. They have been, even after Nick Saban has retired. But 30 plus guys in a recruiting class is going to be hard for some recruits to swallow just because they're not going to get that immediate playing time. Early playing time is very important to a lot of these kids. It's a major factor. And so I think that you will see some flips. And I think that's what Alabama is banking on in the fall. We do know that there are some guys that they're hoping to get on campus for fall games to make that late push, that late flip push. And I think they'll be successful in some cases. I think that they could potentially flip another wide receiver, potentially some more defensive linemen, offensive linemen, and even somebody at the linebacking position. So we'll see how it plays out. But unless Alabama is capable of flipping a couple of these guys, they're not in a good place to finish with the number 1 class just because they're down. I mean, 19 recruits compared to 30 plus that's a surmountable hill to climb as we get close to the 2025 season. Now, what Alabama also has to do is they have to go out this season. The current squad, the current roster has to go out this season and produce on the field and perform. Assuming they do that, which I think everybody feels like they're going to be able to do that. Alabama's going to have a top 10 defense. We think this offense will be prolific. Assuming Alabama does that, you're going to have kids that are committed elsewhere that kind of go, wait a minute, okay, this is still Bama. And maybe I'm not making the right decision by going out to the West Coast. Maybe I'm not making the best decision by going to, Florida State, Tennessee, right? And so I don't see it right now. I just don't see Bama finishing with the number 1 class. I don't think necessarily it matters because you have to consider. I'm not saying that Alabama fans wouldn't brag if they were sitting at number 1 right now, because we absolutely would. But I don't think in the long run it matters because a lot of these guys are, I don't want to call them empty commitments. I think that they're committing with wanting to play for their programs, their respective programs, but it's just not going to pan out in the long run. And a lot of these kids will end up either in the portal or flipping commitments. So Alabama, best case scenario, is going to finish with a top 3 class, just like they did last year. Now, unlike what you would see, 20 years ago, finishing in the top 3 is good. I used to tell people all the time, there was a clear distinction between the number 1 recruiting class and everybody else. always. Well, that's because Alabama had the ability to stack talent. And when I say stack talent, I mean multiple 5-stars. Well, what's interesting is they still have the ability to do that, obviously, because they have more 5-stars than anybody else right now. They just don't have the total number of commits to make them competitive for that number one spot. Now, let's say that happens. Let's say that they go out, they're knocking on these doors of these uncommitted 4 and 3 stars, and Bama finishes with 30 guys. Well, guess what? They're going to be the number one class, but that's a tall order. When you still have, let's look, you still have Oregon, like we said, sitting with 14 total commits, LSU with 16, Ohio State has 21, Florida has 18, Clemson, Michigan both have 21, Texas has 18, Tennessee has 21. So you still have some competition in terms of availability, roster. We'll just say roster availability, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. And so the hill becomes steeper for Alabama to climb for that number one spot. So I think the strategy has to be, let's get who we can get. Let's evaluate the talent. Again, quality over quantity. Let's evaluate the talent, who's going to be the right fit for our program, get them in here, and then we'll look at getting some guys on campus to games this fall and flip them. Now, in saying that, you have to say in the same breath that Alabama could fall victim to that flip as well. You could have guys who are committed to Alabama right now who go on a visit somewhere else in the fall and they flip. I would, if a Cedarian Morgan per se goes and down and visits Florida for a night game, I've been to a night game at Florida. That's a pretty raucous, it's a pretty impressive environment. And that may be enough to glaze his eyes over and flip his commitment. That's just a hypothetical example. I'm not saying that's going to happen. But recruiting is year round. This is going to be going on until December, and we have a long way to go. And, these schools that are kind of stockpiling these guys that are, way over 25, Georgia, USC, they understand that. And I think it's almost like an insurance policy for them. The more we get, the less the flips will hurt. I think Georgia could probably spare, right now, they could probably spare 3 or 4 flips. Well, I'll say USC, they could probably spare 3 or 4 flips, and they would still be sitting at the number 2 spot right behind Georgia. If Georgia did, they would probably drop down to 2, maybe even 3, but still, that's still fine because, like we said, in the modern era of recruiting, the difference in 1 through 5 in terms of finishing where you recruit is not that surmountable. I would even say maybe 1 through 8. There's not a humongous difference there because you have the transfer portal consideration. You have the fact that now with rev sharing and NIL, everybody's going to be signing more 3 stars than they used to. Everybody is. I mean, let's look. Georgia has 7 3-star commits. Bama has 6. USC has 10. Notre Dame has 7. Texas A&M has 6. Ohio State has 7. Michigan has 9. Clemson has 8. Who else down here? Tennessee has 11 right now. Some of these are most of them were even playoff teams last year. And so that's just the nature of what you're going to see now. So the parity spreads throughout the top 10 in recruiting, much like they're trying to do in college football. Your top 10, it used to kind of feel like 1 and 2, and then there was a gap between everybody else. We saw that for years with Alabama. In some seasons, it would be 1, and then there was a gap between everybody else. We saw that a couple of times with Alabama too. But the wealth has spread so much that you have a more equal playing field between 1 and 10 that you did 15 years ago. And that was the goal. And it's been accomplished, not necessarily in an ethical manner, but it's been accomplished in both recruiting and on the field. So what does that mean? What am I saying? Let's sum this up. Do I think Alabama finishes with the number 1 class in 2026? No, I don't. Do I think that is detrimental to Kalen DeBoer and the staff? No, I don't, because I don't think Alabama is shooting for the number 1 class in 2026. I think that is what Courtney Morgan kind of keeps hinting at on social media with the quality over quantity post. It's not about let's just go get as many guys as we can and get them to commit. right? It's let's go get the guys who are going to fit our system. Let's win in state. Let's go get the best talent we can get. Let's use our NIL correctly. Let's use it wisely, and let's finish with a top 5 class. And Alabama will absolutely finish with a top 5 class. I think once, assuming Tank Jones, assuming Tank Jones commits to Alabama, that will catapult them probably up to 4 or 3. And then I think there are a couple of other guys, and maybe even a surprise down the road in the fall. I think Bama finishes in the top 3 when it's all said and done, much like last year. A top 3 class will get you a national championship bid nowadays. And so consistent top 3 classes will get you a national championship bid nowadays, especially with the staff that Alabama has on campus. When we had Xavier Griffin on, his mom talked about how she felt like Alabama has been able to kind of get the riffraff out of the locker room and has built something to where all these players are bought into not just Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, Kane Womack, Nick Sheridan, all these coaches, Coach Shep, but they're also bought into each other and this new philosophy, this new approach at Alabama. And so I think with Kalen DeBoer at the helm, a lot of people don't understand how good he is at working with the talent he has, and he's never had talent like he's got at Alabama right now. And so I think if you wash year 1, let's just call it year 0, as Jeff would say, I think Alabama's in a good spot, a very, very good spot. So do me a favor while you're hanging around, please make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell. I really want to hear from you on this topic. Are there guys that you're worried about flipping from Alabama? Are there folks that you think could potentially flip to Alabama down the road? Leave a comment. Let me know. Best comments we'll use on the show this Thursday night. Be there, 8 p.m. Central Time. Way Offsides Live. Thank you for sticking around. You guys are the best. We absolutely love each and every one of you. This is so fun to do because of you. This is your show. So make it your show. So absolutely adore you. Say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands. Horns down. Beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.